Capcom 2?
Oh yeah. That's a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade one up
What?
arcade machine. It comes with all of the versus games. It comes with X
Okay.
versus Street Fighter. It comes with Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2. And
Yeah.
it comes with all that. That came out during around the launch of Xbox Series X and the PS5. They all that launched around that time. So yeah, I had pre-ordered all three. Like I had
Mhm.
pre-ordered the PS5, the Series X, and that all at once, and they all released around the same time.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. It's giving me a little grief. It's not letting me go on Twitter. It says I need a premium account, which I have. Let's see if I can just remove that. Let me actually just
Mm-hmm.
if I can do some troubleshooting. Dude, yes, thank you so much for making time today because it's like I've been following you on Twitter for quite a while. I'm excited to see you with your comics and so much more. I always love it when I see people just doing stuff, right? Like it's just like here's this guy, he's making stuff happen, and that's exciting to see. Or how is that going for you? Like what got you
Uh,
going in that direction?
that's a good question, man. Like I don't know, like as I said before, I always wanted to be a game developer. Growing up because
Mhm.
I'm a gamer, a big gamer. More specifically, I love RPGs,
Yeah.
JRPGs growing up and everything. So it was back in like fifth grade. I was already thinking in my head that I wanted to start my own video game company. So Venus Orion was the name of the company that I named a long time ago. And I had my cousin, who was an artist. Me and him was in the same grade together, and in fact, in the same class together. And he used to draw up the little schematics for me and everything for because I wanted to have a game console and everything as well and
Mhm.
stuff. And then I don't know, fast forward, and I end up going to college and everything, and I was already doing like RPG Maker. I was already doing like Mugan, which is a fighting game engine that allows you to
Mhm.
create your own fighting games and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So
So I,
that's the origination of at least Mugen Lord.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I love the whole creative process, and I also like to do creative writing. I like to write and stuff like that. So I used to write my own RPGs and storylines and stuff. So it just made sense that I would gravitate towards those tools and everything. But what ended up happening was I started getting into filming because I also like to do filming, like directing and everything like that. So I used to do my own little short films and everything.
Mhm.
And it was this one concept that me and my father came up with was called VK, Varion Keller's Vampire Killers. And we wanted
Hmm.
to make our own live action vampire slayer type of series. And this is during like the early time of YouTube. I joined YouTube around like 2007 and everything. So it was around that time where we wanted to try to do like a live action
Okay.
series, but it never really manifested. I ended up going to college and then got busy with college and everything. But then all of a sudden, I don't know, pandemic came. We fast forward to the pandemic. Everybody at home.
Yeah.
The pandemic. Everybody's home and everything. And I'm making a lot of money off because I also do 3D hentai, 3D animation and stuff like that as well. So I create my own erotic storylines and art and stuff like that. So that made
Mhm.
me a crap ton of money. And so that's why everything you see here is from the hentai money. Everything I made is from hentai and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I have my own little business with that. So I don't know. One day I was like, you know what? I want to do something fun. I'll say I would love to see what my characters from VK, the live action series I was telling you about, what if
Yeah.
we made them into like anime looking characters? So I found this artist, this Chinese artist. She's from the Philippines. I found her on Fiverr. So I went to her and I was like, I would like to hire you to draw these four characters for me in your style, because your style is just beautiful and everything. So I paid her, and she made the characters and everything, and I was just like floored. I was like, oh my god, this looks so beautiful and everything. So I said, okay, let me do like a little slideshow presentation to my father and my brothers
Mhm.
about all of this. And I was like, okay. So I did it, didn't tell them anything. And then all of a sudden, um I called my brothers, I called my dad. I said, yo, check this out. And when I showed them the characters, and I said, these are characters from VK, my brother and my dad they just lost their mind. They said, oh my God, this looks awesome and stuff. And then my dad, he sat down and looked at me. He said, you know what, son? He said, yo, like, what if we can make this into an anime? I was like, man, I would love to see this in anime. And like I said before, it was only just supposed to be something I just wanted to do, just to
Mhm.
have these characters and just show my brothers and my dad. And then he was like, I thought about, I said, no, an anime would be awesome. I can see my characters as an anime. But I say, animation is expensive. Like, how would I be able to get something like that done? Then I also thought, like, man, I would like to see this in video games and stuff. But I said, starting a game company would be kind of rough, and it requires a lot of money. And so I was like, what's the next best thing or the cheapest way to get into it and then build my way to it? I said, comic books. I said, yo, what if I could start off as a comic book or a manga or something like that? And my dad said, no, son, that's a good idea. And then I said, okay, I need to do this. I said, I want to start my own comic book company. I said, what should I call it? And then I went back to my childhood, Venus Orion. I said, okay, instead of just Venus Orion, how about Venus Orion Comics? And then the rest was just history from there. And I said, okay, I'm going to build this shared universe. I'm going to start building all these different characters and everything and have all these different moving parts and stuff. And then, as I said before, my father, back when he was 15, and as he was getting older, especially back in the 80s, he was a big Marvel and DC fan. So he always wanted to work for Marvel as an artist and everything. So he used to draw a lot of Marvel characters. And when I was a kid, my dad used to open up his art book and show all the Marvel characters and DC characters he drew and everything. But he showed me a lot of his side projects where he wanted to start his own comic book series and everything. Okay. Yeah. But the thing was, and my dad ended up, my mom and dad end up hooking up and getting together, and then my mom ended up having me.
As it happens.
Yeah, they end up having me, and then they got married and everything, and then my brothers and my sisters was born. So my dad's, he just dropped his dreams because he was like, yo, like, I'm a father, I have to work, you know what I'm saying, and support my family and stuff. So he put all his dreams on hold, and he never got to them. So then I thought about it. One day he was at work. I ran in his room and started tearing up the room looking for that book because one day he took it from the basement and he left it in the bedroom. So I found it, and I took my phone and started screenshotting all his characters that he drew. And I went back to my artist. I said, yo, make these into anime looking characters and everything. And I said, I'm going to incorporate my dad's characters into my comic book universe. And I'm going to surprise him. And that's what ended up happening. I did another slideshow presentation, and he didn't know what to expect because he already seen the work that I was doing. But he's like, "Oh, what more am my son going to show me?" And when he seen his characters, he almost shed a tear. And I said, "Yeah, Dad, like I want to bring your characters and bring them into my universe and everything, so your characters can live on and stuff." And man, my dad was just like going crazy. So so now what my dad does now, he is part of the creation process now, because now he's helping with the storyline, especially for his characters.
Such a beautiful story.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Dude, no, I get it, because it's like when you have kids, it changes the game. And then
it does.
That, obviously, like I wouldn't say like it doesn't sound like he abandoned his dreams. It's just that it just took a long road to get there. And what a beautiful piece that you and your dad get to work on this together. Cause I know, like, whenever I get, like, me and my son, we're not making comics together at this point in time, but we're building Legos together, and we, sit down and we're like, how right. And it's just, it's a process, things break, and we have a loud and crazy house here, but it's like, yeah, dude, like that time you just, for me as a dad, like that's what it's all about. Like, how can I hang out with the kids? What are they doing? What
exactly. I'm a dad myself. I got a daughter. She's 15. Yeah, she's 15 now. But I told my daughter, I said, yo, this is all for you. Like, this is something I want to pass down to you. And my daughter, she likes my creations, and she also try to, give me like some advice, like, yo, Dad, because my daughter loves anime and stuff. Like, how about you do this, that, and the other? And she's already talking about wanting to create her own stories and stuff. I said, good. I want you to start learning and start thinking about creating your own stories, because, this is going to be passed down to you, So yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I don't know if you know about this about me, but like I have been published on comic strips, little single panel stuff here and there. Never ended up getting like syndicated. Never ended up having anything take off. And I have like a whole stack of all my art. And one of the things I've asked, and we're trying to save up, I want to get a new Wacom tablet. I had one back in the day, so I was doing digital, web comics, and then that broke, and I just haven't. And with having the kids, I've been incredibly busy, but I've been like kind of getting back into it to a degree, and just like, hey, how can I get back and start making some of these things? Because that's what originally got me into content creation. Was I was like. Wow. Oh, like, all right, I'm making my web comic and I'm doing this. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll make a podcast as well about games. And that'll be a good opportunity to let people know. Cause like there wasn't ever a lot of traction And then hindsight being 2020, it's like that was right when like all the big YouTubers like were like explode like that are big now
Yeah.
are all exploding because like the whole video medium was just coming out. And I published some stuff on YouTube, and so like it's far in my back catalog, but like we were making like music videos and we were doing different things like that, and so it was always a lot of fun. But now nowadays I'm like, yep, let's talk games, let's play some video games and hang out. And it's crazy how things have changed just across the landscape too. You brought up the pandemic, the lockdowns, like
it changed
really
a whole lot of things.
It's really cool to see that is kind of what lit a fire under your butt and just got you going on. Looks like Chris is joining in here, so it's just gonna be awesome. Welcome in, Chris. Welcome in. Hello. Hey. Mugan Lord, Chris, Gaming Kinda, Mugan Lord. There we go.
Yeah. Like I said, I watch you guys. I've been a big fan of you guys, especially you guys really got me into like Final Fantasy 14. I started out with Final Fantasy 11. I love Final Fantasy 11. Final Fantasy 14 doesn't hit the same as Final Fantasy 11, but you guys have really put me into it.
We got to toss up that background, that Final Fantasy 11 background. So pretty. So
love 11. Love 11.
Well, it is time to get started. Are you gentlemen ready to podcast? Lots to talk about this week. It's been like it always is like, well, like as we were trying to plan out shows, like, oh, okay, well, we got a guest coming on. We'll see what they want to talk about. And then it's like, oh man, this shut down. That happened. This happened. It's like, man, I don't even know if we'll have a discussion topic. It's literally just like what's going on in gaming and so much more. But all right, we're gonna toss our intro Philly D style in that regards, because it's been kind of fun and working for us, and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crystal Core Radio Podcast. Brian and I almost called you Ginger, Chris. Brian and Chris here. Brain is failing me. Join for the first time on the podcast, Mugan Lord. If you guys aren't following him, YouTuber, comic book writer, owns his own comic book business that he's working to get that launched. And honestly, I've been following this guy for a long time, and it was really great to watch your burnout video because you were plugging the podcast, but you were also talking about how we influenced you to get into Final Fantasy 14, which was always exciting to see. Mugan Lord, welcome to the show here. Is there anything I missed, or is there anything you want to just tell people about before we get into all the gaming news?
Well, if you guys are interested, my brothers and I, we also have a t-shirt business. So if you guys are content creators and you guys would like for us to do custom designs or create your merchandise, we do hats, mugs, we do tumblers, we do tote bags, we do hoodies, we do it all. The name of the company is called Strike and Kots.com. So you'll be able to go there and you can be able to buy some of the designs that we got there, because we're graphic designers. So all the designs that you see there, you can't find anywhere else. But you can contact us in the chat, tell us what designs that you need or want, and we'll put together a deal for you and have it shipped out to you. If you live locally in the Philadelphia area, you can come to the studio and we can give you the product instead of having it shipped to you. So, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. As a couple of show notes for everybody listening, we actually have we'll have a couple of special podcasts coming up in the near future. So just keep it locked. We got some of the folks from Kotaku that are going to be coming on the program to kind of give their point of view of all the recent developments and so much more. But today's show, hopefully we're going to end up focusing on kind of what's going on with the state of the video game industry. This week alone, the big news stories that really kind of hit home for me were Blue Protocol getting shut down. Like that game's never coming out in the West now. There were some signs that was a possibility, but it was still unfortunate when that news broke. Same thing also goes with Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, the mobile game. They announced that is also shutting down. And it's just like, wow. In that vein, in the positive side of things, Final Fantasy 16 seemed to ghost drop onto PlayStation Premium Plus, or whatever that tier is within the PlayStation Plus environment. And Final Fantasy 16 is also finally coming out to PC and GeForce Now, which for me, I'm a huge fan of that service. It makes gaming so so much easier to do. But let's just go around the horn. Chris, let's catch up with you, man. How was your week, sir?
Week has been good. I've been looking forward to this. Actually, that Kotaku thing's been kind of a surprise behind the scenes that they're willing to come on. So it's had me consuming a little more Kotaku, because when we get into these touchy subjects, like I feel like sometimes maybe silence is like automatically agreeing with somebody or condoning like everything they say, and sometimes it's just I don't know enough to comment. So you can just toss out something. I was playing Rocket League this week with some friends, and a friend of mine said like an outrageous statement that he'd heard from some political ad or something. And like I had to stop playing Rocket League and like go down the rabbit hole of like, A, where did he hear this? B, what is the real number? And then like the number he got was just somebody on some podcast he listened to threw out an arbitrary number. And then that had like spiraled in his brain to the point where he was really upset about like the state of things over this stat that was just
made
wrong.
up.
Like it was just wrong. And it was wrong by a lot. And then I found it, and I was like, well, this is from, here's the actual status sites. Like here it is from the different government sites and all of that. And so like, I just prefer to be more prepared in the future if we're going to have controversial guests. And Kotaku is somebody that like, I don't always like especially like headlines, and I get it.
Yeah,
I've been a full-time YouTuber. I get it. Like algorithms are real. And if it doesn't get clicked, it doesn't matter how much work you put into the article or the video. If it doesn't get clicked, it doesn't exist. And so you have this weird obligation towards your own craft to make the thumbnail and the title all the way up to, but not over the point of clickbait. Like you want to make it as clickable as possible without being misleading. But Kotaku in particular, I think sometimes crosses that line. But like the line's not real. Like it's not like there's actually physically a line, and we get to say like, oh well, obviously this is left of the it's not like you can just put a number on it and be like, well, the number's negative. What are you gonna do? Like it's an opinion. Just from my point of view, I feel that Kotaku, and I don't think I'm alone in that. Kotaku in particular, I struggle with their headlines, and so a lot of times I'm mad before I even read their article. Which that's not like a receptive place to receive whatever they wrote. Even if what they wrote is really well researched, I'm upset before I got there.
I wonder how much of this is though algorithmically driven, because all of us here are content creators. Chris, you brought it up in terms of the, especially when you're full time, like you become cognizantly aware of what ends up getting the click versus not. And it's always about striking that balance. And beauty is in the eye of the holder. It's clickbait if the person feels that it was clickbait, and it's not clickbait if they, like, oh, they talked about this. We always had general rules that especially if it's a spicy thing, because no matter what, a spicy topic will be considered clickbait by anybody who wants to have that connection. But we want to address that at this, like in the first 30 seconds of the video, not like at the very tail end and like, oh, check out, this drama or something like that. But Mugan, what's your experience? You've been a vocal proponent of especially everything that's been going on in gaming this year. And have you felt like that's been positive, negative in your worldview? Do you feel like you're making a difference, or do you feel like, how do you feel about the whole situation?
That's a good question. Well, I believe that people believe that the content that I make, I've always been covering like gaming news and everything, but recently I've dived into the whole culture war aspect, all because I wanted to give my opinions of how like Western developers and Eastern developers, how they depict women as far as like attractiveness and everything. And I just did that one video. And it just blew me up to the point where Asmund Gold, Melanie Mack, Razor Fist, and all these other big content creators started sharing my video around. And now I started just getting a lot of people coming into my channel wanting to hear my thoughts and opinions on a lot of this stuff. Like right now I'm taking like a week off because back to school start for my daughter. So I have to get her together with all that. But next week I want to cover the controversy with, Black Myth, Wukong, how the journalists, had to try to do a smear campaign about sexism and all this other type of stuff that was going on with that. And also want to talk about Concord, because, Concord has some of that controversy about some of the decisions that was used to, to develop the game. And now it has, a crappy player count and everything. And then Dustborn, which was a government funded game up that's
like under 100 concurrents. Like I hate to focus on concurrence as a real number, but it was like
I hate
it was like
you see that
my niece's dance recital level of numbers, and so like it in particular struggled to the point where like I felt bad.
Like
Yeah,
you might know everybody in that room. At least
Bring a friend. And that's hard. Like I know a ton of work goes into a game.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah. So my audience, they want to hear my thoughts and opinions on that. So I've been, working on my outlines for the videos, finished recording them and everything. So next week, Monday and Wednesday and Friday, they'll be able to hear my thoughts and opinions on Black Myth Wukong and everything like that. With that, but the current state of gaming, man, it just, I don't know. I'm caught in between because like this generation has just been full of just remakes and remasters. At this point, there's really no real sense to get a PS5 or Xbox Series X because these developers are still developing games for PS4 and everything like that. But there still haven't been anything that really says, "Hey, I got to get these consoles and stuff." And then on top of the political things that the messaging that they put in these games that's throwing people off and stuff like that. It's just been a mess this entire generation, and it's trying to find a diamond in the rough.
Right? Like if Ben and Jerry's doesn't have an opinion on the conflict in Gaza, then they're a bad ice cream company. And so like if they don't address it, you're responsible. But like if you do address it, then like can't you get politics out of my game? I don't know how you win.
Yeah. I definitely understand. I understand both sides, and I like I said, I made a video before about how it is getting toxic because it started getting to the point where now, like the moment somebody would like post something, like if a character is too diverse or anything like that, then people start back, just hammering it, saying, like we don't want this in the game, we don't want this in the game. And I try to tell my audience to have a balanced view on all this because just because it looks like that doesn't necessarily mean all the time that it's like that, and you have to pick and choose your battles when it comes to a lot of this stuff that's going on within the gaming industry. And also don't be so quick to be reactionary because you could be wrong, because the whole thing with, I remember around like Tekken 8 when that was about to release, and somebody had posted a screenshot where two of the characters, it was Lily and one of the newer characters in Tekken 8, where they talked about cultural appropriation, and that triggered a lot of the anti-woke side, saying that, oh, here we go, Bandai Namco, they're feeding into the whole wokeness and cultural appropriation and stuff. And I was telling everybody, I said, this is just a screenshot. The game is not out yet. Let's just wait till everybody get the game, and then you'll be able to go in and see that scene for itself. And come to find out, they was making fun of the whole thing of cultural appropriation or whatever like that. So I say, see, false alarms. Stop being so reactionary. Just wait and see how things play out and everything. So things are becoming just so sensitive on either sides, and it does get frustrating after a while.
So one of the things that's really interesting kind of about that, you brought up a couple of key points in development, and we're seeing kind of that, come to a head. But I often wonder, like, just how much of that is just, I guess, nonsense, where it's just like, I brought it up this way, like online, you see the woke side make the argument that it's like these that we were against, like the anti-woke is against diversity, etc. And I think that ends up being kind of a gross misrepresentation of like kind of really the key complaint. And I kind of tweeted out and ended up getting a lot of traction just the other day in response to Destin Legary's kind of tweet, where it's like, having a diverse character, I don't think anybody's really against it. Sure, there's going to be some racists out there, but they're like one out of the 100 to 1,000 people, and we don't care about them, right? At that point. But when you create a character whose key defining characteristic is that they're a diverse character, you end up just really poisoning the well. It's not a good character. It's not anything that we're excited about, and it ends up just kind of being that where we see these these kind of movements happening, and within this year alone, we're seeing this kind of pushback on the gaming industry. I do think that there's more than just one lever that's been pulled. You brought up that gamers are frustrated with remakes, remasters, all of these different things, and I think that's true. I think the technology jump from the PS4 to the PS5 didn't deliver what people had hoped, and you start to see that now that games start shifting back into 30 frames per second, and everybody's like, but I want your, this, and it's not running at 60. And I think Sony has done by far the best job, but then obviously they come out and say, hey, we're going to go live service, and and then there's Concord, and then there's like, okay. And so there is a level I see of all these kind of middling thorns that have been kind of applied, and then when they're all kind of brought together, you have an industry that's like, why would I go play your new game? I'm still playing Final Fantasy 14. Or why would I go play your new game? The World of Warcraft expansion just announced in and of itself, and those games and the numbers themselves show
seasonal, right? Like I haven't played War Within, but War Within's being claimed to be too hard. Every expansion, people complain about how hard it is at the beginning of an MMO because you don't have any gear yet, and then every patch after that, it's easy. Relative the beginning of an expansion. So like I don't know, maybe the numbers will turn out it is too hard, but like some of it is just seasonal complaints. So when you drown those out and you say, okay, let's just offload the fact that every 2 years you could re-release the same video about World of Warcraft being too hard, then now we can come in and start talking about like the actual issues of the day and look for themes across those issues, like where we're seeing the same issue in game after game after game. Are these things that people are actually frustrated at? The console thing is just, it feels like it's out of left field, because for so many years we heard cloud was going to be the solution, cloud was going to be the solution. It just took so long. It didn't immediately take off. We've had a lot of false starts. And now I think you're really seeing cross-platform and cloud become real competitors in the room. And they're kind of silent competitors because you don't really see them making like big waves, like because there's no big marketing push for generic cloud service or play where you want. It's just kind of something that happens. But for so many years, like in college, I had a Mac because that's what ran the software I used in college best, which meant that consoles were a big venue into gaming for me because there are developers that develop well on Mac. But over the years, that number it's felt like it's shrunk. I don't know if that's actually true, but it's felt like it's shrunk. And so consoles were a big thing for me. So like always being told my whole life, like PC Master Race, PC. And like, I never had one. I finally get one. And now like I have a PlayStation in there. I have an Xbox, but I turn them on to play a very specific game or play with a very specific friend. You remove those things. People are like, well, aren't you worried about the other 1,000 titles that are or are not coming to it? No, those things are a whole lot closer to like a plane ticket. They're expensive, but they are effectively one-time use for me. And I'm not saying that isn't weird. It is. They're really expensive for how little I use them compared to like my Xbox 360, where I used it to the red ring of death. And then I worked at GameStop at the time and I took it in and fixed it. And then I used it again until it died. Like that is just not the life that a PS5 is going to have for me. It's going to die of dust long before overuse. So this whole console loyalty thing, I think, is something that I don't fully understand because maybe it's just a different stage of life I'm in, or I just don't view consoles as the same loyalty that I did when like my PlayStation 2 was my most valuable possession.
That makes sense, because like when it comes to my Xbox and my PS5, like my PS5, like earlier this year, I haven't touched it until the release of Stellar Blade.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't played the PS5 to the release of Stellar Blade.
But would you
feel weird?
Also launched on PC? Like that's one of the games that has just launched on PS5 and nowhere else.
And the thing is, I have a capable gaming PC. I still haven't really made that full jump over to PC. I have some games on my PC, but I haven't touched my PS5 until Stellar Blade came out. And then I played Stellar Blade and I just put it down. And then my Xbox Series X, I tried to get supported as much as I can, especially when it comes to JRPGs. I got Dealfield Chronicles for the Xbox Series X, Star Ocean: The Divine Force, and also the Visions of Mana as well. So I try to play as many games on there as possible, but mostly my Xbox Series X, I get on there just to watch Netflix with my daughter most of the time, or while I'm making videos, I would have my television on and just have Netflix, have YouTube play in the background and everything. And it's just sad that, you know, I don't have that same feel like you said about the Xbox 360. Xbox 360 was my favorite console of that generation. I went through two of them bad boys because one was the Rare Ring of Death and everything like that. But I love that console and just disappointed to where we are now, especially with I want Xbox to be successful and great. But as far as just this generation of just gaming in general on consoles, it's just why.
I worked so much overtime at GameStop to pay for a PS3. Like there was a different time. And now I have $1,000 that when you put them together is the size of a mini fridge and it just sits there. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
My
Switch get more play. My Switch gets more play than the PS5.
Yeah. There is at least one Switch being used probably 5 nights a week in this house.
We have a handful of Switches here with the kids and everything like that, and that's something that They come in and out. So Switch game time is also kind of seasonal because then they'll just jump into Roblox or something like that. Or Power World this year was a really big hit at the house. And so there's these
Roblox to me. Like, this is like asking somebody to explain slang to me. My niece and nephew are so into it. And like when they got into Minecraft, I was like, I'm here for it. When they got into Pokemon, I'm here for it. Like, I'm here just to listen. But if you have a question, like, I'm speaking the language. When they're like showing me Roblox and they expect me to be able to respond in the same way that I can.
My daughter's the same
Zelda
way.
Or Mario or Pokemon or all these franchises or games I know, I kind of just stare at the screen. Like, I don't.
Roblox feels like this weird, like, way that you're putting your kids out in a mall with a bunch of grifters. Like, they're constantly asking you for money, and I keep telling the kids, which I look at it as a teaching opportunity. All right, like, oh, this is, how much is this, Dad? It's like, well, that's $5. Like, how much would you have to work to get that in item in this real world? It's like, I need you to go pick up all the trash in the yard. I need you to do this and do this, and that's but they don't do it. So no, it's like, I'm like, no, I need to equate the thing that it's prompting you for on your screen to some form of discomfort or pain so that you go, oh man, I don't want to waste my money on this. But that's the thing. I mean, as a parent, no, it's awful. Like, when you think about it, like,
my niece just turned 9. So I guess it's age gated by year. So like her birthday happened and the game just like opens up. Now she can play the 9-year-old games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and she's so excited to tell me that on the phone. I don't know what that means.
So,
like, I feel like my grandfather.
We could make our own Roblox game, and people could go and play it, and then we could try to monetize the children. And so, I'm just waiting for the day when the news breaks that Kappa decided to go into Roblox and do stuff, because you got big companies like McDonald's and all these jumping in on it and advertising because they realize
it feels weird. And some of the games are like so low quality, it feels like they're in some weird AOL chat room playing some.
But at the same time, Roblox got it has a creative engine to where I've seen people make Tekken. They made their own Tekken game within Roblox itself. Somebody made a Call of Duty game. I'm like, wait a minute.
He was like a baby being carried, and he's like, I'm the baby. I'm like, you're just being carried by a stranger on the internet? Like, not a single alarm bell is going off.
Yeah, this Roblox stuff, because like my daughter, she loves Roblox. She plays this game called Royal High, where they drop you off on this campus, and you have your own dorm room, and you be able to customize your dorm room and customize your avatar, and you can invite people into your room and show off your little stuff and everything. And my daughter just loves it. And she's 15 and still plays Roblox. She just loves stylizing her avatar and everything like that. And then she built a channel.
I'm girl at 40. I still play Minecraft. So
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's what they want. They want to get
minimum age. I understand. Maximum age for a game. Go nuts. My dad's about to turn 80S for Hot Wheels for Christmas. So like,
dude,
if nothing else, it's cyclical.
So
right back around. Him and my youngest nephew are getting the same Christmas gift this year.
I literally am going to be asking for adult Legos for Christmas for myself, because I've been having so much fun. With
Legos a couple years ago. That's what he wanted. He wanted the like tech Legos or whatever. Had like a little motor in it that ran. He was super pumped.
Freaking super pumped. I gotta know, Mugan. Let's talk about Xbox, because you brought that up. You are making a conscious effort to support JRPGs on that platform. We thank you so much for your service. By the way,
no problem.
Like, it's like, guys, you gotta support. Like, Phil's doing his best, but here we are, and this year alone, Microsoft Xbox is also on PlayStation. If you're playing PlayStation, you're playing an Xbox, according to Microsoft. I don't see them rechanging. I only see that accelerating. I only see Starfield.
Oh yeah, it's going to accelerate. They already have their plans. They already have their plans set that this is what they're going to do. And the writing has been on the wall since, I believe, the Xbox One, with the whole DRM and everything. And they're looking ahead. They know that game is going to eventually be an all digital era, and they want to be able to try to capitalize on that market as fast as possible, which is why they're trying to grab up all these different companies and everything, so they can be like the Netflix of video games and everything. That bothers me the most is you're taking these companies, you're buying them up, and then you're splitting them. You're splitting them. Tango Games got messed up.
Yeah.
The Arcane Studios. I'm like, then what was the point of you buying and acquiring these studios just for you to break them up? So now, and I was the advocate and say, guys, forget about the Xbox One, because a lot of fans were upset about the Xbox One. I didn't even bother. It was the only console generation where I didn't bother to buy an Xbox console. I just stuck with the Nintendo Wii U and the PS4 of that time and said no Xbox One or whatever like that. But I was telling fans like, yo, Xbox fans, like, look, just be patient, because I know that the next console, they want to do it. Because I say, like, they're going to put all their effort and resources over here. And then now this nonsense, the moment I saw Indiana Jones going to PS5, I said, oh, this is what they're going to do. This is going to be the future. They're going to start moving they're going to start making everything for the PlayStation 5 on, moving on to the future.
Till the true first parties go, I'm not a believer.
Yeah.
Forza Horizon 6 and Halo dump onto the PlayStation.
Really?
I'm done. That's the one where I'm like, nope. The train is fully gone. Up until this point, I believe the train might be leaving the station, but if you run, you can catch a door. We're fine. At that point, like there's a can rolling across the ground. Like the train is gone. If you've missed it, it's not coming back. Till the true original first parties that were designed for and by Xbox to be on Xbox. They were not acquired. They've just been there. Like Halo's just been there. It's always been there. When that comes to PlayStation, when they announce Halo comes to PlayStation, it's like, and I'm sure some Halo Infinite person's like, this game would be good if it was on PlayStation. That is not what's wrong with Halo Infinite. Like, more places is not your issue.
It's interesting though, because like then you see on the flip side, Concord, people are struggling to find matches in that game already because the player population.
There's only one match.
Yeah,
it's just the one. Like if you didn't get in, you have to catch the next one.
Right now,
what happens? How does that happen?
I think that happens because you have a couple of things. You got to think back in time. Mugan and our pre-show talked about how he, really got started in content creation during lockdown. So lockdown changed the game for a small period of time. And then the fact that these games take so long, decisions were made back in that period. And now we're seeing like, are those games coming out or not? And it turns out not necessarily the best. People have gone back to work. More people have been probably like, after that, like, yeah, it was fun playing games for like a year and a half while, not visiting family and friends. I don't want to go back to family and friends now. Like, I want to go back in the real world and experience it because, yeah, like it can go away, all of a sudden. So I think that's one aspect of it. I think also we touched on a number of things. Like, I do think that there's, and I knew it was going to come this generation. What's up?
Like, just to stop at your first point, there are other games having success.
There are.
Like, it's not like they're all at 94 concurrent. It's only Concord that's had that level of almost avoidance.
It's the AAA ones this year. So, like, where we're seeing success is we're seeing in AA, which means less budget, more mobility, and more flexibility. As soon as you start crossing over, I think 50 to 100 million, those games are now struggling because they've the cost of doing business, because these companies don't actually put their own capital on the line. They've been taking out loans and financing it. And for the longest time, taking out that 0 or 1% interest ESG loan, like, okay, we're going to have a DEI department because we're going to take this cheap money, was smart business, because then you mitigate your risks. And when it comes to your ROI, you're not spending 5, 6, 7%. I talked to a bunch of non-game developers within development, and they're like, there's no way we can't fund this project because we're paying 7 times what we would, before all these changes have happened. So I think that the costs have gotten so crazy and risky that people have, and that's why AA has been, that's why the AA has been so successful, because it's actually doing what the players want. Giving them what they want. And it's not.
Is that why Helldivers is successful? Like, I played Helldivers and I have had fun playing Helldivers with friends, but I have found the gameplay loop, as far as like a repeatability thing, didn't catch me. I felt the same thing about Starfield the moment I got in, and everybody else was having so much fun. I didn't want to be a downer. I just kind of like left the party and got in my car and went home. Like, I'm glad you guys are having a good time. Like, I don't know what's up. It's got to be me. But like, like, Helldivers just didn't grab me. But what I admire about Helldivers from afar is that when the players ask for something, like, it just seems to be like, and we did it. Like, it seems to be like pivoting in real time. Like, if you could go back, like instead of going to McDonald's and if you don't like your order, you go back up and you order it and it comes out the exact same. The chef is in the room. And so you're like, well, I wish it had more whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that for you right now. And so like, is that what made Helldivers special because as a raw gameplay loop, I don't find it like as innovative as its success would state. Like its success was outrageous. Wasn't even close. Its success was incredible. You would think that it makes all other games look like they haven't even discovered what fun is. And when I played it, it's not that much better than every other game. It's a good game. I've enjoyed it with friends, but like I don't find it like addictive. And its success is amazing. So is it the flexibility? Like is that the word that you're leaning in on?
Now, I think with Concord, it was like a different, like a bunch of different things that contribute to why it was what it was. Like one, I would say like the price tag, all like in the genre that it's in, is a hero shooter and it's a multiplayer game, deathmatch game. And then when you have games like Apex Legends, you have Overwatch, and now we got the upcoming Marvel Rivals that's coming out. These games does what Concord does, but much better. And it's free to play. Now you have Concord that adds a price tag to it, and many people look at Concord and say, "Hey, it's like a generic piece of crap, like it's copying other games." And then on top of that, you look at the culture war aspect, where a lot of people was ragging on the character designs and how ugly the characters look, and with the pronouns and all this other type of stuff. And then the developers were, going back and forth with the community as well, so that added more flame.
The developers didn't help themselves at all when they called the gamers who don't like their game talentless freaks, I believe was the phrase.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Bold. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. I covered. I covered it on my video.
That's a bold choice, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, so I think that also hurt them as well. I believe because I said myself that I would give the game a try. Because when I wasn't really too fond of like the characters and stuff like that, but I said the game is fun. I'll try it. Right. But when they put a price tag on it, I said I'm not paying money to take a chance on this game.
So that's a hard ask.
South, like my immediate impression of Concord was like, all right, this is interesting. Okay, it's an Overwatch by Sony, and in that same press conference, in that same Sony Direct, they then show off Marvel Overwatch, and so it's like they literally showed us two versions of Overwatch, and one of them. Already we want to I was like, that looks already lightning better. I would love to play Marvel characters in an Overwatch style game. That's kind of the root of what Overwatch was. It's these bigger than life characters and here's what's happening. And it was like, okay, they have that and Concord. Like, why would I want to go play Concord? And then obviously all the other stuff just starts trickling out. And the thing for me, like I always try to do like as good of a job, as I can, is to like really not weigh in with an opinion if I wasn't really ever going to buy the game. Like Stellar Blade came out, everybody was making a big deal out of like, this is, like an attractive woman and let's compare this to Hades. And like, that was a whole like kerfuffle. And I was like, I wasn't going to pick up Stellar Blade. Like, I don't know what this game is.
I wasn't going to pick up Concord. It's just the failure is so absurd. Like what's Charlie Chaplin say? Life up close is a tragedy. Life from afar is a comedy. Yeah, like that's what I feel here. Like this had nothing to do with me, and I would have just moved on. They're like, oh, this game in this genre that isn't really your thing, that you weren't even paying attention to, came out an underwhelming success. That is not a headline I click on. It just doesn't. But like Skill Up saying like concurrence was 94. I was like 94. Like that doesn't seem real. Like that's like,
I do want to highlight that
you have to click that. Like it's so absurd.
I do want to highlight from chat that Robert Jones says that the queues on PS5 are pretty good. I do believe the game is cross-play with PC, but in and of itself, if you're sitting here waiting, if the narrative continues to drive home, like, oh, I had to wait 8 minutes for a match, like where you end up like to play Concord, you need to have another game. What's the game that you're playing while you're waiting for a Concord match? I don't see that necessarily getting better. Do you think they can turn this thing around? And should they?
How long does the match last?
It's a great question.
Robert
weighs in on that one. I do not know how long. I would assume it would be a typical Overwatch match where you'd be talking about 15, 20 minutes per round. That would be my...
It takes 8 minutes to get into one, right? And then occasionally you get up to get a glass of water or whatever before you... you're talking about like 50% downtime? Yeah. 50% of your uptime is downtime. So like a third of your total time is lost. So if you play for an hour, you lost 20 minutes to searching for matches.
That's the estimate. We'll see if chat weighs in.
That's a hard ask, and like that's the issue. Like Final Fantasy Dungeons struggle with that same thing sometimes. DBS queues can get that long, and people are like, I'm not having enough fun to justify the wait. And so like it's a common complaint in games. Like, what do you do? Okay, so Death Monkey's saying a match lasts 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, but downtime's under 2 minutes. That's better. 8 minutes would be.
Are you playing on PS5, Death Monkey? Because I just trying to get an interesting read on the data from what I see.
PS5 is such a big ecosystem. Like that's the problem. Like I like the Xbox ecosystem more than being on PlayStation. I always feel like a foreigner when I'm on PlayStation. Like I always feel like I need to have like my passport with me. But like on Xbox, I feel at home. Like it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like everything about those menus. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because that's where like my friends played growing up. So like it just feels more at home. And my name was taken on PlayStation, so then I'm there under like another name. Like it literally just feels foreign. But the ecosystem is bigger. So if you're going to play a game that's not popular, like if you're going to go download some old classic game and you're going to try to find an online match, PlayStation should be the better experience.
Well, and we're seeing Xbox games really excel on PlayStation, topping the charts. And I do think what we'll end up seeing about it, though, and my current theory is when it comes to the console war, that when these games are just everywhere, and whether Sony decides to publish more games on Xbox, they publish, there's one game, their baseball game, which made sense because they were going to lose, the license was going to get pulled, and they have the best baseball game that's around. So yes, I'm glad that it's there. But like, if whether we see that as part of the future or not, the fact is these games are selling, and I don't know where console warriors go from here. Is it just going to be my service is better than your service? Like what is the next line in the sand that these people draw to distinguish themselves in this online ecosystem?
Epic did it with exclusives. That's how Epic came into the space. They had a war chest from their one big game, and they came in and bought exclusives. Or you're going to be the first 2 weeks, or when the game comes out, everybody's going to get 3 loadouts, but your platform's going to get 4. Right? You get twice the inventory space. You get some costume that, whatever. Like you get something. Something makes yours special. But if we move to the point where that's being rejected, either by the financial analysts who are saying, "Hey, what you're paying me to be exclusive is not what I get by just being widespread," or the gamers themselves are saying, I'm not going to engage in your exclusives. Like if you give it, if I happen to show up and I get something free, that's fine, but I'm not going to go to your restaurants explicitly because of the coupon. I'll take advantage because I'm there. I work at a company that's just done that. We just came out with a promotion. We're trying to get more clients right now. And I'm working with a client who's already going to work with us. So then you have to ask yourself, like, do they get the promotion? Yeah, absolutely. It fell within the time window. They get the promotion, but that's weird because they were showing up anyway. Right. And so like, and that happens. And so like, are we getting to the point where is that the minority of people? Like some people just happen to benefit because they showed up on the right day. Hey, did you know it was free? Get a shake day. Great. Or are we really trying to land business with that? Because I don't know that people follow that anymore. We've seen that with like Final Fantasy 16. There are a lot of people that said, well, I'll just wait.
Yeah. Like
Rebirth or whatever.
Yeah, when it comes to exclusives for me, like I don't mind exclusives. I don't like third-party exclusives, like Square Enix, what they've been doing with Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Final Fantasy 16, and everything like that. I think with third-party companies, I think every console or every platform should be able to have access. Players should have access to that. Now, first-party studios, I understand that's their IP. If they want to make it like exclusive, then so be it. But third parties should never be that way. I want everybody to be able to play Kingdom Hearts. I want everybody to be able to play Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and all those other type of things and stuff. But this whole exclusive thing is very, very to me, I think it's pivotal for Microsoft though. Like they need those exclusives, first party exclusives, in order to keep people that have a reason to go to their platform. There's no reason to own an Xbox. There's really no reason, man. Like now you got
Forza Horizon 6, what I'm holding out for. Here's my question, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. You have exactly my stance. So I'm just going to now get to argue against myself here. What happens when Xbox buys things? If Xbox buys Square Enix, is Final Fantasy now considered first party?
That's a good one. I still think in this case, I'll probably like being a hypocrite or contradicting myself. I think Final Fantasy should still go to every platform, especially when it was
So it's
traditionally
the birth of the studio,
Yeah.
not its current location.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how I would feel. Like I know I'm contradicting
Okay.
myself, but man,
Well,
like
new IP comes out, right? Let's go back in time. Final Fantasy, Square Enix gets bought by Xbox, and now comes out with Project Triangle, Square, Octagon, whatever awesomeness. Great game, terrible name. Octopath Traveler. There we go. Buys Octopath Traveler. Final Fantasy is crossplay because it was born in an open world.
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler is brand new. Does that now roll first party?
Yeah, that's how I would see it too. Like if it's a new IP, just brand new for them, then yeah, I would keep that as an exclusive because it's a brand
that's
new
what happened
IP.
with Starfield, right? Starfield was announced but had not yet released.
Yeah.
ZeniMax was purchased,
Mm-hmm.
but the game hadn't come out.
No, it haven't came out. Yeah, it wasn't even.
So first party.
Yeah, first party. Yeah, I think that works. It makes sense. They haven't released yet, so.
Yeah, but I think for Microsoft signaling, it's like I've been picking up that message since they first announced Play Anywhere. It's like they're saying you play our games wherever.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, okay, yeah, I do enjoy the Xbox ecosystem. I do prefer playing on an Xbox controller, even on PC. But ever since then,
just Game Pass anywhere. You can be our customer anywhere.
Yeah. And
that's what I thought.
That's what I thought they were going to go with. But I think, obviously Sony is like, we don't want to let Game Pass on ours. It's going to cut into these games.
Sony won't even let our subscription on their service.
Yeah. Like, well, who would have thought? But, and then they would also go in, and Sony does this and Xbox doesn't. Sony blocks xCloud, meaning on Xbox, you can play GeForce now. You can, connect to these cloud services. When Stadia was a thing, you could do that. Xbox was like, sure. Sony was like, hell no, we don't want you doing that. And so it's like, it is a very restrictive OS. That's where like the only real play that I felt like that they've been moving towards is just opening them up because Xbox is a Windows machine. And when I look at something like the Steam Deck, I'm like, yeah, I can play PlayStation games because they're on Steam. I can do that. Like I am not restricted in this environment outside of just the technical know-how or people making the effort to make it run on a Linux OS or using Proton. But here we are, and I'm like, well, why would Xbox want to create a single-use device for the next generation? Because you guys kind of hit it at home. Like some of the stuff is seasonal. You spend a lot of money for a paperweight, and occasionally you turn it on and you play it, and you're like, that was great. And then you kind of just go back to the way that things, are currently working. And so I just don't see a huge market for single-use devices outside. Like Nintendo will sell their IP. We know exclusive self-consoles. This isn't saying that anything against that, but I just think that why not open up to Steam? Why not open up to the Epic Game Store? Why not just say, hey, this is a PC and it happens to have a nice streamlined kind of approach to getting into your games, managing your friends lists, and just kind of being that product, because all it would take in my mind is that product to exist to further impact like this mindset that I buy this system just to play this game, and then I play all my other games on everywhere else.
I'll take a stab at the answer. So I have a Burton snowboard. It was $800, something like that, and I had to buy a new set of boots for it. So with boots and bindings, it was like $1,000. I, as a Texan, only use it between 3 and I think the most I've ever used it in a year was like 10 days, 14 days. That's a lot of days on snow for a Texan. But most years it's about 5. And it'll probably last me 5 to 10 years, which is probably 5 to 7 years more than it should, just because it's underused. And it's expensive. So when you divide it by the number of days, does it really come out ahead of rentals? A little, but mostly I just like that it's mine. And so it's a lot like own your own hardware. It's a lot like own your own hardware. It's a similar price tag over a similar use period. And it is equally hard to explain to a spouse or a friend that isn't into the same hobby as this is where I took my hard-earned money that was not needed to survive and I put it. And it's now there. And it doesn't have any value in the resale market, really. It just kind of is what it is. If you now say, hey, we've thought about it, and we are now going to you can just pay $1,000 and have unlimited rentals at every resort anywhere because we just want people to ski more, right? That is the same mentality that Xbox is following. the logic there is that I will ski more. But the problem with me skiing more is not the equipment. It is the fact that I live in a state that is 100 degrees today. It's far to get to snow.
You could
So
but it would
stop
probably
collecting
make
my
years.
money in order to collect more money isn't going to work out for you. What that's going to result in is now I'm just going to rent boards. They're not going to make $1,000 off me every 5 to 10 years. They're going to make a fraction of that. And their Burton's going to go out of business. And that's a loss. So if Xbox stops making Xboxes because there's no reason to make an Xbox, there's no value proposition, I don't know that I want to live in a world where PlayStation has no competition and they're allowed to do whatever they want with their quality, with their terms of service, with their release schedule, with their backwards compatibility, all of these issues that are real issues within the console space. What happens to a game when it dies? You know, there's a Final Fantasy game going offline this week. I think it's a mobile one or whatever, or it was announced. And like that content's gone. And there is a real frustration for gamers. What happens to these games that I buy if you stop supporting them? Do I just, like, especially in the world of digital purchases, if you just pull it off your marketplace, is it just done? Like, is it just, that's it? I just don't have access to that game anymore. And the answer to that is competition. The answer is to have a platform out there that is doing it better than whatever platform you're on. That's who keeps them honest, right? And so, like, that's my concern, is that by not driving value to Xbox, if it's not done through exclusives, that's fine. I actually support that. I hate third-party exclusives. But if you're not going to do that, what are you going to do? Because you do need me to buy your next Xbox, or they stop making Xboxes.
Yeah, like as far as game, like for me, like Game Pass, I have never subscribed to Game Pass before. Like I never tried it at all. Like both my brothers, they have a Series X. They love the Game Pass, and the reason for me is like one, I love to have physical games, but two, when it comes to Steam, I have Steam, and I buy a crap ton of Steam games, but they're just there. I don't even install them because I just keep getting them, but never play them. And I noticed when my brothers had got Game Pass when it launched and everything, they just kept installing games, but they was never completing them. They were just installing them, playing them. Oh man, I can install this. They installed the next game. I said that's going to end up being me, and I'm gonna be just wasting money. And I hardly get a chance to. I hardly even play the console as it is. Game Pass would just be taking my money, and I'm just not using it. So that's why I really have no need for the Game Pass at all.
Do you think that a Game Pass is a failure, or do you think it is essentially a part of the problem?
That's a good question.
I think it did two things. So first of all, I will play the next Forza Horizon game on launch. That's the one I've been mentioning in this conversation. It's not my only favorite title. It's the one I've been mentioning today. It's what's on my mind.
I love those.
I'm really excited about it. It comes out next year, and I'm really concerned it's going to go be on PlayStation or whatever instead of just being on Xbox, because I like that it's Xbox exclusive. It feels like they take it really seriously. They want it to be that quality product. It's released really good day and date. And so maybe my fears are unwarranted, but I just get worried that if they start putting it everywhere, it's going to be a buggy mess. And maybe it won't be. Maybe I'm the idiot, but I feel like I like the way it works now. It's working great for me. And so my selfish self says, don't give it to anybody else. Keep doing what you're doing. I like it. I get concerned about, like, when we start talking about this cross-platform, that things just get diluted. And so Game Pass to me is really worth it, because as long as there's 1 or 2 titles a year like that, it's about a wash, but I was probably going to buy them anyway. And so I don't know that they're coming out ahead with me in money. I think they're getting the same amount of money, because I play about enough of those games that I would have bought anyway, that it's probably about equal to the subscription across a year. What it has gained is that every once in a while, there was a time, especially during lockdown, where, like, my brother and I feel like it was lockdown, I don't know, we would say, hey, let's just go pick a random game and download together. And that's what gets you into something, maybe like a Concord, right? That's what gets you into a game that has a purchase price, but you weren't going to pay it untested. And so I found myself playing a lot of random games for the first few years of Game Pass. But that's faded. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm much more careful about the games I play now, because I'm just busy lately.
Yeah, because like with my brothers and people I know, and I've been noticing on the internet too, is like with Game Pass, people were literally like, now when a game is announced, is it coming to Game Pass? If it's not coming to Game Pass, then I'm not going to even support it. I'm not going to even play it or anything. So I know a lot of people who own an Xbox and don't really go out and buy games. If it's not on Game Pass, then screw the game. I'm not going to go out and buy it. I'm not going to go out and support it and stuff. And I think that's the problem. People are not buying Xbox games. They're just waiting for Game Pass and just go with Game Pass instead.
If you subscribe to HBO, Netflix, Hulu, Peacock all together, are you still going to go pay $13 to see a movie at the theaters? Like if you're paying $70 a month to bring streaming into your house, why do I owe you another $13? It's coming to one of these in a few weeks. I don't know which, but I got them all. I think that's fair. Like it sounds crazy, but like if you buy an Xbox and you pay the subscription to the VIP Xbox Club, and one of these games says, "Hey, we're going to come to the platform, but we're not going to sit up inside the convention hall. We're going to be out in the parking lot. And you got to pay a different cover charge." That does sound weird. Like it doesn't sound weird to those of us that have been around pre-Game Pass, but like when you say it is like Game Pass is not cheap. It's not free. It's not $1 a month. Like it's substantial, especially if you have the PC Ultimate whatever version. The one that my wife's always like, "What's this $15 charge?" That'd be me.
So what do you think about Game Pass though? Because obviously you're not a subscriber. Has it been a problem, Mugan? Is it do you consider it a failure? I think the last announcement there was at 34 million subscribers, which I think they obviously want to have that number as big as possible.
Yeah, because I remember covering saying that they would step away from they abandon the Xbox if they don't get this certain amount of subscriber count that they're trying to aim for. But I think in order to keep people subscribed, they still have to have some games, especially if it comes to like exclusives, since they're putting a lot of their first party onto Game Pass too. But if there's nothing to come to the console for, then no one, like after a while, like why should I get a Game Pass if you're not really having anything for me to turn on my Xbox to actually play and stuff? So I think in a sense, I guess it's somewhat successful because people like the Game Pass. Because I know a lot of people got Game Pass. So to me, I think it pretty much is a success. But I think it could be a lot better if they actually start pouring in some actual like really, really good IPs to their platform to get people to say, "Hey, I have to subscribe just to get access to this."
They're at 34 million out of, which is up quite a bit. It's gone up. It's been climbing. But the install base as of 2 years ago was already 120 million. So like they are, it's not the majority. I had to look those up. I just made my own decision in my own little island that I'm okay with Game Pass, so I pay for it.
Like a fourth of the industry, in that regards, which, and it like for me, it has changed my purchasing habits. It's allowed me to check out some games that I would never have, been willing to check out and spend the money on. But also, I think the limiting factor for me isn't the cost of video games; it's the time to play them and to actually enjoy them. So it's like I'm still working through Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 5. I'm still
spend 15 hours a month on Game Pass.
15 hours.
I think I'm at $1 an hour. I think I'm right at the break point.
See here, I roughly probably spend most of my game playing time has really been within Black Myth Wukong and within No Rest for the Wicked. Neither of those games are on Game Pass.
And the problem is that you could take the games I play in Game Pass and you could go buy those games.
Yeah.
That's where I think like in a year I break even. So then if next year I'm playing the same titles, I'm now losing money. I have to rotate titles annually. So if I start playing games that are not annualized franchises, or if I start, so like all of a sudden I have to start asking myself, well, what do I want to play? Like the other day I thought about playing Farming Simulator, and I think there's one on there. If you guys haven't played that, it's just mind-numbingly relaxing. It's like I took my Xbox down to my in-laws, and they were all sitting around reading books, and I just put it on the TV and I was playing it. And like 3 hours went by, and like I looked up multiple times, and they'd all put their books down, and they were just watching me farm. Nobody said anything. It was like nap time for the kids. So the kids were upstairs, grandma and grandpa were upstairs taking a nap. So the rest of us were all just sitting there around the TV quietly, letting everybody else nap in the house. And so the house starts waking back up from nap time. We're all going to go do stuff. It's this family reunion, and they go, "Chris, can you believe you just wasted like 2 or 3 hours farming and no actual farming occurred?" And I said, "Can you believe you just wasted 2 or 3 hours watching someone farm and no actual farming occurred?" Like I don't know who the bigger time waster here is. Like I harvested fake crops. You watched me harvest fake crops. And at one point, like I could hear the gasp when I went and upgraded my tractor. I heard this. Like I could hear it in the room. Like people are watching me. Like, you guys think it's dumb that for a while this was my full-time job, but like You're participating. Now just imagine if something popped up on the screen and said, hey, you've been watching this all month. You want to toss me like $1? That's how my mortgage was being paid. Like, that's a real thing, because my family just doesn't get it at all. They're like, I don't understand content creation. I don't understand video games for adults. It's like, you're here. You did it. You watched me play Farming Simulator for hours. And I wasn't talking. I wasn't adding commentary. I was just hanging out, farming. And it is mesmerizing. Power Washing Simulator. That is one that I can. I have watched enough Power Washing Simulator that it is awful. I don't own it.
All right. Are you guys ready to play 20 questions? Mugan, have you played 20 questions before?
I don't know.
All right. So the rules are, for anybody who's new, chat can play along. Last week, we gave out a virtual Stadia controller reward to chat who actually got it right. I will not highlight chat. I will not do anything like that. Who's the bigger fool, the fool who leads or the fool who follows? Yeah, that's so funny, Cameron. Thank you. And so you guys have the ability to ask any yes or no question possible, meaning I can only give you a yes or no response. Sometimes I'll go and try to clarify, and you have 20 questions to get the game, and you have to get it on the 20th question itself. So if you haven't ever played it, I'll help you kind of get used to it. But a good strategy is to try to narrow down the time frame that the game was released, maybe the platform and the genre. So you basically try to ask yes or no questions to remove games that it could be, until you eventually feel really confident in which game that I have up. Now, for those who are playing along, we use the Wikipedia for the official answers that they share. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris so he can ask the first question about this game.
Was it first published before the year 2000?
Before the year 2000? Yes, it was first published before the year 2000.
Okay.
A good follow-up would be to try to get the decade. So if you're like, oh, maybe I'm okay before 2000, what would, you can pick a decade, or you can pick, maybe a genre.
Publisher, genre, anything. Something broad.
So obviously like the 90s.
Well, ask. Yeah. If that's
it. So was this like, this was like a game or published in the 90s? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's, do I move on to the?
Yeah. Was it published by Nintendo?
Just to confirm, I'm going to say, like, immediately I thought no, but then I was like, oh, what if there was some weird, thing that had it? No, it was not published by Nintendo. I don't want to throw anybody off by pausing and then.
So was it released on multiple consoles at that time?
The original release, no, it was released on one platform originally.
It gets weird if the game 20 years later gets re-released everywhere.
Right. It has been re-released, etc., just so that you guys are well aware. But it's an original release in the 90s on one platform.
Was it first released on a disc?
Yes.
All right. So
that could be PC or Sega Saturn or PlayStation.
Was it released on a PlayStation?
It was released on the PlayStation. That is 5.
Okay.
5 questions. 15 to go.
Was it an RPG?
To confirm, the genre is not listed as an RPG, but I would classify it as an RPG in a way.
Okay.
So kind of.
All right. Was it developed by a Japanese developer?
Yes, it was. I think you guys got this.
Was it published by Square Enix?
It was published by Square Enix.
Whoo! All right.
That helps.
Square Enix today, but it could also be, I'm
Square
in that category.
So if it's kind of like an RPG, so it's kind of like an action adventure, but has some RPG elements in it.
Are you asking?
Yeah, man.
No.
Mm.
You said action adventure.
He said action adventure.
Okay.
So it's not an action adventure RPG, but he's thinking in the right vein. It's, you know.
Okay.
And no, I'm not just for clarification, because I know Yoshi P talked about how he doesn't like the term JRPG because I wouldn't classify RPG and JRPG differently. I always thought JRPG meant quality.
Yeah, same here.
All right.
Yeah, I think there was a what game was the first game to break the JRPGs into being released by Western Dev, where people are like, "There's not a JRPG," and it's like, but it is. Like, it has all the hallmarks of, right? Like, it's like I had some really delicious ramen in South Dakota. Like, it, you know, but like it's like you know, like you can take all of the lessons learned.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a South Dakotan dish. Okay. Let's see. Was it a Final Fantasy game?
It is a Final Fantasy game. That is 10 questions.
Wow, that's great. Okay, so Final Fantasy games in the 1990s, it's a lot.
Final Fantasy Tactics?
They're not all numbered. So we could either knock out numbered or named.
Is it a side Final Fantasy game? Like a spin-off Final Fantasy game?
What do you mean by side or spin-off?
It's not a number. It's not numbered. It's just
it is not a numbered Final Fantasy game.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're getting there.
Man. All right. There's one in my head.
Well, so when you have something in your head, ask a question that would try to eliminate it, and essentially that's the way you can kind of narrow it down.
So the fact that it was on a disc is really interesting for the 90s for Final Fantasy not numbered.
You also asked if it was on PlayStation, and that was correct. Yeah, it was yes.
Right.
All right. Is it tactical?
It is tactical.
Final Fantasy Tactics?
It is Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's my favorite Final Fantasy.
Dude, that's my favorite. Best Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I was picking the game for this week, I was like, I haven't done tactics. Like, let's see. And since you were coming on, I know you were a Final Fantasy fan.
You've been keeping a list of all the games we've done?
I was hoping we would have a fan that would be keeping track of it for its wins and losses. We lost it last week on the 20th question, which was
it was a coin flip between two games, Mega Man or Mega Man 2, and we went with Mega Man. It was Mega Man 2.
But once you said Final Fantasy, then when you said it was a side, when I said side, like a spinoff,
not numbered.
I was like, it's not numbered. I said, okay, it's only very few, especially back in the 90s. Like Final Fantasy Tactics is, if I was like the rank Final Fantasy games and include the side games, spinoffs, Final Fantasy Tactics would be probably my number 1 or number 2 Final Fantasy game, because
it's so unfortunate we haven't seen them like bring that to PC. We haven't, like they remastered it as War of the Lions, like on the Vita,
the PSP and stuff. Yeah,
it was great. It was phenomenal, and it's like, man, I really wish we would see that. And you can play it like on iOS and Android and whatnot. So it's just like, okay, like can we just get a native? Because they eventually brought Chrono Trigger to like Steam and I'm like, now it's like, all right, we'll see what Square Enix has up their sleeves. And hopefully there is, I think everybody I know talks about who's played Tactics, talks about it in such a beautiful way.
My first introduction to Final Fantasy Tactics was when my dad had bought me Tobal #1. That was a Squaresoft fighting game. And it came with a promotional disc that showed all the upcoming Squaresoft games. And it came with a playable demo of Final Fantasy VII. And that demo had Barrett and Aerith was in your party, and you had the Leviathan summon, and it was the bombing mission that they gave you within the demo. But also it had trailers to upcoming games like Bushido Blade, Saga Frontier, and then they had the alpha footage of Final Fantasy Tactics, which looked totally different than what the Final Fantasy Tactics that we got once it released and everything. But man, I remember when the game finally came out, my uncle got it, my dad's older brother. And like, he's like, my uncle, that's all we talk about is JRPGs, like RPGs together. And I remember going to his house and he whipped out Final Fantasy Tactics, popped it in. And as he started just showing me the opening cinematics and the gameplay, I went away like, Dad, you got to buy this game for me. Especially when I said, man, it'd be awesome if Cloud was in this game. He said, yeah, Cloud was in the game too. I was like, what? Because you're like, what? So I was like, Dad, you got to get it for me. Yup. And he ended up buying me the game. And I was like in 5th grade at the time Tactics came out. And it just opened my mind. It just showed me that the video games weren't just video games, man. They were like narrative. It just introduced you to these different worlds and stuff. And Final Fantasy Tactics just pulled me in, especially with the politics that's around it, the narratives that surrounded it and stuff. Am I the good guy? Am I fighting? Am I the bad guy? What's going on here? You know, it was so much like intrigue that game had brought, to me as a 5th grader at the time. Yeah. I just love it. The Game Boy Advance just never hit the same. It didn't hit the same like the original.
And the narrative also like of kind of our legends and history and things like that. Like, okay, this is what we believe about ourselves, but it's like, well, the story in and of itself is a little bit different, or this can actually play out as, as heroic as it could have been, Absolutely. Well,
what else can you play it on now?
You can play it on iOS, Android, and if you have a Vita, you can. They have it on Game Boy. Like, it's not even on Switch. It would be a perfect. It'd be a perfect Switch.
It looks like.
Well, because the rumor is the rumor is they'll be remaking / remastering it, because the Nvidia site had put that list out, and mostly everything that was on that list ended up coming out. So people wondering like, okay, when they going to announce a remake or a remaster to Final Fantasy Tactics?
There's just like Final Fantasy 9 remake and Final Fantasy Tactics are like the two that we have yet to see. Everything else, I believe, has been out, or at least like officially announced to some degree. So time will tell. And I think if that ever gets the opportunity, and if Chris, you ever get the opportunity to play it, it is phenomenal. It also makes the Final Fantasy 14 tie over enjoyable as well. Like, having kind of that.
And that's another thing why I like 11, Final Fantasy 11 and 14, because it does remind me of Final Fantasy Tactics. Because in Tactics, you can pick you have so many different classes, and then you can take skills from other classes and put it to your primary like class or job and everything. I love Tactics, man. I love it.
All right, Mugan, where can people find you? I got all your links that you gave me in the description of this, but man, what do you got on the horizon, and where can people follow you?
Oh yeah, you can follow me on Mugan Lord on X. Just type in Mugan Lord, you'll find me there. My YouTube channel is also Mugan Lord. I cover a lot of video game news, and I'll also dabble into some culture war stuff. My upcoming videos for next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll be covering Black Myth Wukong and its success. Also Concord and what went wrong, and also Dustborn. Talking about the failures with that, it being government supported, and does the modern audience actually exist? So you can just stay tuned for those videos.
Chris, where can people find you?
Right here. Right here. That's the plan. Cool. Yeah, I want to get into some more within. I want to go take
When's that launch? Is that out?
It's in pre-release right now.
Like pre-patch?
I think so.
Okay. I know it's coming out in August.
I thought it was. Oh, maybe it just came out this weekend. Last weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was the end of the month, but then I look up and I was like, oh, it is the end of the month.
It is the
end. I think it comes out on the 26th. Like, that's in the future.
Like,
and then I look down. I'm like,
last day of the month.
My computer's weird. It says the 30th. That shows how my month has gone. I have not had the concept of time since probably June. I don't know where July went. I don't know where August went.
Are we going to break the news that this was a whole planned intervention, Chris? It's 2030.
That's making a lot of sense.
You've been in
the amount of gray hair and the beard has been going up what feels like daily, but those might have been months. Okay.
And for me, guys, you're already in the right spot. The podcast will get archived in an unlisted state, and once it's finished processing, for those of you who are watching this as a VOD or listening to the MP3, thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate you. We got a couple shows. We'll be back next Friday, and we're right now tentatively scheduled for the 16th to have the Kotaku folks come on and give their perspective of everything that's going on within gaming, which I think will be a really good story to hear that side of the coin as well. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap us up for today. We will be back this time next week. Hopefully you'll join us live, but if not, no worries, and have a wonderful day.